When a 6-year-old reveals the truth, even legends are shaken. In the glittering shadow of Graceland, where fame masked fragile hearts, a single moment cracked the illusion. Lisa Marie Presley, just a child, yet brimming with fierce loyalty, whispered a truth to Linda Thompson that left her reeling. A truth so raw, it cast doubt on everything she thought she knew about Priscilla Presley. The air in the room changed. Tensions that had simmered beneath decades of glamour finally surfaced. Stay with us, because what she said and what happened after will absolutely stun you. After the fairy tale wedding unraveled, Elvis and Priscilla Presley found themselves on opposite ends of a shattered love story, one that had captured the world's imagination and ended in a quiet courtroom signature. But behind the headlines and the flashbulbs, real life was unfolding. Their daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, was barely 5 years old when the papers were signed, too young to grasp the magnitude of it all, yet old enough to feel the change in the air. What once was one home became two. What once was a family portrait became alternating visits, split holidays, and a delicate tug-of-war between two parents, still figuring out how to coexist in the aftermath of fame and heartbreak. And then came Linda Thompson. A beauty queen with a poet's heart, Linda entered Elvis's life not long after the ink on the divorce decree had dried. To the world, she was the king's new love. Young, glamorous, a seamless addition to his entourage. But to a little girl caught in the middle, she was something else entirely. Linda wasn't just stepping into Graceland. She was stepping into the emotional debris of a family still reeling from separation. Winning over Elvis was one thing, but earning the trust of Lisa Marie? That would take far more than charm and good intentions. Lisa Marie's days became a rhythm of back and forth, coastal calm in California, with her mother Priscilla, and the chaotic, velvet-draped wonder of Memphis with her father at Graceland. Each world had its own rules, its own expectations, its own unspoken truths. In this dual existence, young Lisa was learning to navigate adult emotions with a child's vocabulary. What she saw, what she felt, and most importantly, what she said would one day pierce the surface of celebrity polish and expose something no one was ready to confront. And it all started with a quiet moment and a question no one expected her to ask. Lisa Marie Presley may have been just a little girl, but her heart was already divided between two towering figures, her mother and her father. She adored them both with a loyalty so fierce it almost seemed to defy her age. For Lisa, every hug, every visit, every moment spent in either home felt like an act of allegiance. And when someone new stepped into the picture, especially in her father's world, her guard went up. Linda Thompson, glamorous and kind-hearted as she was, quickly discovered that the love of a man like Elvis didn't automatically grant her access to the heart of his daughter. Lisa watched her carefully, cautiously, as if trying to decide whether this newcomer was friend or threat, a momentary guest or a permanent shadow. Then came Linda's birthday in Las Vegas, a glittering celebration under the neon lights, the kind only Elvis could orchestrate. The air buzzed with laughter and champagne, but beneath the sparkle, something far more tender was brewing. Lisa Marie, dressed in innocence and curiosity, found herself among the adults, quietly observing, listening, learning. It was there, in a quiet corner of that extravagant party, that the little girl finally spoke words that would stick with Linda forever. With all the disarming honesty only a child can deliver, Lisa shared a sentiment so raw, so revealing, that it sliced through the glitz like a knife. "My mommy says it's because he didn't take her anywhere when she was married to my daddy," she said, looking up at Linda with wide, solemn eyes. "But my daddy takes you everywhere." Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact even, but the impact hit like thunder. It was more than a child's innocent observation. It was a window into conversations whispered behind closed doors, a glimpse of pain that had long simmered beneath the surface of fractured love and lingering jealousy. In that moment, Linda wasn't just a girlfriend enjoying her birthday. She was a woman staring into the eyes of a little girl who had unknowingly delivered a truth more piercing than any adult dared to say aloud. The words echoed louder than the music, deeper than the laughter in the room. Linda didn't need to ask questions. She understood. There was something unresolved, something quietly brewing in the background of this family story, unspoken but ever present. Lisa's statement hinted at more than just a memory of missed date nights or forgotten gestures. It whispered of a deeper divide, a quiet resentment that had taken root in the wake of love lost. What began as a birthday celebration ended with an invisible line drawn in the sand, one that neither Linda nor Priscilla would ever fully step across. But Lisa? Lisa was standing right on it, unknowingly holding the weight of it all in her tiny hands. Linda Thompson had faced her share of uncomfortable truths in her life, but nothing quite prepared her for the quiet bombshell Lisa Marie dropped that night in Las Vegas. It wasn't just what Lisa said, it was how she said it, so earnestly, so plainly, with the wide-eyed innocence of someone who didn't yet know that truth, when spoken aloud, could sting. Linda stood there, stunned, not offended, not defensive, but caught in that rare silence where the heart and the mind collide. She could have laughed it off or changed the subject, but she didn't, because deep down she knew this wasn't just a child parroting her mother's words. It was a peek into the emotional undercurrent that ran beneath every handshake, every smile, every carefully orchestrated family photo. Years later, in the pages of her memoir, A Little Thing Called Life, Linda would recall that moment with startling clarity. Lisa's words, she wrote, were hauntingly accurate. Linda had been taken everywhere, on tours, to events, into Elvis's inner sanctum. She had seen the world beside him, basked in his spotlight, while another woman had been left behind. Linda didn't need a history lesson to understand the unspoken rules of this post-divorce landscape. In that one sentence, Lisa had painted the entire picture of love unequally shared, of roles reversed, of memories that carried weight long after the love story had ended. It was, Linda admitted, a truth she didn't want to confront, but one she couldn't deny. From the outside, Linda Thompson seemed to glide effortlessly into Elvis's world. Graceful, composed, the picture of Southern charm. But behind the scenes, she was navigating a minefield of loyalties and legacies. Loving Elvis meant inheriting his past, and that past came with people, powerful people, who hadn't quite finished writing their part of the story. Linda didn't want to replace anyone. She just wanted to love the man behind the music and maybe, if the stars aligned, be accepted by the daughter he adored. But Lisa Marie's comment, though said without malice, reminded her that acceptance wouldn't come easily. She wasn't just filling a void, she was walking into a space already crowded with memory, resentment, and unresolved emotions. So Linda did what anyone with a tender heart would do. She listened, she learned, and she kept that moment tucked away, not as a wound, but as a warning. Because sometimes the smallest voices say the biggest things. And in this case, one little girl's candid observation cracked open something far more fragile than Linda had anticipated. Was this just a child's honesty, or a glimpse into a deeper family wound? Time has a way of softening the edges of even the most delicate beginnings. What started as a wary distance between Lisa Marie Presley and Linda Thompson gradually began to shift, shaped by quiet moments, shared laughter, and the kind of trust that only forms when love is given without expectation. Linda never tried to replace Priscilla. She knew better than to challenge the role of a mother. Instead, she carved out a different space, one built on kindness, patience, and an unshakable presence. And Lisa, still so young but growing wiser with every visit to Graceland, began to notice. The woman who had once been a stranger in her father's world was becoming something else entirely. Someone who saw her, listened to her, and didn't flinch when the truth slipped through her lips. Their bond didn't blossom overnight. It was pieced together slowly, like a mosaic of trust. One sleepover, one bedtime story, one whispered secret at a time. Linda knew the value of consistency, especially in a life where everything could change in the blink of a flashbulb. She never pushed too hard or demanded too much, and somehow, that gentle steadiness was exactly what Lisa needed. The mansion walls that had once echoed with tension began to feel a little warmer, a little more like a home. Lisa started to lean in, offering hugs that lingered longer, words that were less guarded, and eventually a love that was quiet but unmistakable. No one could have predicted what would happen years later, in a moment of heartbreak and unimaginable loss. But it was in that moment, the one that would redefine everything, that Lisa made a choice. A choice that wasn't guided by protocol or expectation, but by pure instinct. When the world was spinning and the unthinkable became reality, she reached out. Not to the press, not to extended family, not even to the ones the public might have expected. She called Linda, and in doing so, she revealed just how deep their bond had grown. One forged not in titles or appearances, but in something far more enduring. Genuine love. The world stood still the day Elvis Presley died. News of the King's passing echoed across continents, stopping fans in their tracks and flooding headlines with grief and disbelief. But far from the flashing cameras and broadcast chaos, in the quiet halls of Graceland, a 9-year-old girl was grappling with a loss far too large for her to comprehend. In that moment of raw heartbreak, Lisa Marie Presley didn't do what anyone might have expected. She didn't call her grandmother. She didn't run to the tabloids. She didn't even wait for her mother. Instead, she reached for the phone and called Linda Thompson, the one woman who had entered her life gently and never left her side emotionally, even when the world around them shifted like sand. That call wasn't just a reflex. It was a cry from the heart, a silent plea sent across miles of grief to someone she knew would understand. For a child to choose someone outside the boundaries of bloodline in her most vulnerable moment, that's not chance, that's trust. It was the kind of trust that comes from years of quiet reassurance, of unwavering love that asked for nothing in return. It spoke volumes about the space Linda had come to occupy in Lisa's life. Not as a replacement, not as an intruder, but as someone real. Someone who loved Elvis not as a legend, but as a man. And someone who, in loving him, had also loved his daughter with quiet, consistent care. In an interview with People magazine, Linda later reflected on that unforgettable call. "I will always be profoundly grateful to the little 9-year-old Lisa Marie, who had the presence of mind to call me from Graceland the fateful day her daddy died to give me the news," she shared. "I was the first person she called." Those words don't just document a fact, they reveal the weight of a connection most people never saw. And what's even more striking is what Linda said next. "If there is any solace to be found now, it's in my knowing that Lisa Marie was sure I loved her and her daddy, without reservation and without any agenda." The heartbreak of that day is something the world remembers in black and white footage and mourning tributes. But for Linda, it's frozen in a single, trembling phone call, the sound of a little girl's voice trying to make sense of the unthinkable. That call wasn't just a passing gesture, it was a final confirmation of a bond forged quietly, away from the spotlight, built on moments that never made headlines. It was love in its most honest form. And in that instant, the world may have lost its king, but Lisa Marie revealed a truth far more powerful than any newspaper could print. In the digital age, some messages feel ordinary, just text on a screen, floating in from a contact list. But others linger, echoing louder than their words. One of Lisa Marie Presley's last messages to Linda Thompson was heartbreakingly simple. "Love you, Linda." Just 4 short words, sent with a heart emoji, but they carried the weight of decades. Behind that small phrase lived a lifetime of shared memories, trust earned moment by moment, and an unbreakable bond that had quietly endured the highs and lows of a family forever under a microscope. That final message wasn't just a farewell, it was a soft-spoken affirmation that no matter the years or the distance, some connections never waver. When the world lost Lisa Marie Presley in January 2023, the shock was palpable. Tributes poured in from fans, friends, and family who struggled to find the words for a woman born into legend, but burdened with its shadows. But for Linda, the grief came wrapped in silence, memories too tender to post, too private to share. She had watched Lisa grow up, navigate fame, motherhood, heartbreak, and resilience. Through it all, their thread of connection never truly frayed. That text, now frozen in time, stands as a bittersweet coda to a story that was never about fame, but about feeling seen, safe, and loved, even when the world felt anything but. Looking back, it's hard not to return to that moment at Linda's birthday party. The day a 6-year-old girl, still learning how to make sense of loyalty and loss, spoke a truth bigger than anyone realized. What seemed like a child's innocent observation was, in hindsight, a subtle foreshadowing of the emotional maze Lisa would walk for the rest of her life. That small voice, unfiltered and raw, had already begun to reveal the quiet tensions and untold stories that would shape her world. And in the end, the same honesty, the same heart, would circle back to Linda, with a message that was as simple as it was profound. Love you, Linda. If this story moved you or made you see things in a whole new light, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive into the lives behind the legends. Give this video a like if you felt the emotion, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think this moment really meant? We'd love to hear your take on it. Let's keep the conversation going.